And Brandy, if you could put up our flag, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have we're continuing. Hopefully this is the last meeting under the governor's stay home and stay safe order. We still haven't heard what the rules are if we're reopening, but we're assuming that's the case here at the end of the month. And we've mostly have the council chambers set up, and I'll talk about that in my mayor's report. This evening, we have provided a link to this meeting on our website and phone numbers for the public to call in to participate in our meeting this evening. So we have a published agenda. Is anyone proposing any amendments to the agenda? Councilmember Diener, you raised your hand.
I just was going to make a motion to approve the agenda if there weren't any changes.
I think there is an amendment that the attorney would like us to, but I don't know that it has to do with an emergency order, correct?
Correct.
And I've talked to a couple of the finance committee members about it. So it has to do with an emergency order related to repairs to a sewer lift station. So if someone could add that as a business, yes.
If you have the specifics on it, I'd be happy to move that we add this emergency resolution or ordinance to our agenda.
Okay, we'll add that as business item J.
And second.
Okay. That's an emergency order.
Mayor, I recommend adding an executive session to proceed that item.
Okay, we will also add an executive session and we don't need a motion for that, I don't believe. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to add an item J, which is an emergency order related to repairs to a sewer lift station. We have a motion and a second for that. And Fred, you raised your hand.
Do we need another executive session before item G?
You could have one if you would like to have one.
I thought we were emailed about an executive session for that item.
Yes, that was the other one I was going to mention, Mayor.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
why don't we, I would
We can do both.
recommend we reorder this agenda here a little bit so that we do G and J at the same time. So, and promote H and I ahead of those. So we do one executive session and then come out and take action on two items. If that's, is that confused? Are you as confused as I am? No,
With permission of the second, I would include that into my motion to make those adjustments.
Okay, so we have one executive session for two items F and J, and that we will promote H and I ahead of those items on the agenda.
And does the executive session, it's down as number 13, does that not to be, that has to be moved up, doesn't it?
It's not, there isn't one at 13. That's just a placeholder.
Okay.
All right. Further discussion of the agenda and the motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion on the floor to amend the agenda and add that item, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Agenda has been amended. Are there any further agenda amendments? I'm not aware of any others, but you may have one. Okay.
If not, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. A motion a second to approve the agenda as amended. Any further conversation regarding the amended agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been set for this evening. So now we are to our first citizen comment period, and it is for any item on this evening's agenda. So if a member of the public wishes to address the city council, use the raise your hand feature, and the clerk will bring you into the meeting, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes to address the city council.
Mayor, there are a few members of the public in attendance this evening, but I do not see anybody with their hand raised.
Okay. Then I will close this first citizen comment period. There is a second citizen comment period at the end of the meeting for anything on your mind. So with that, this first citizen comment period is closed, and we are to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Councilmember Clausen.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening. Further discussion of the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda has been approved. We have no presentations. We have no public hearings. So now we're to our business items, the first of which is an adoption of an ordinance approving the final downtown sub-area plan and proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan and redevelopment regulations. Mr. Bond, this is yours.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, members of council. Before you tonight is an ordinance to approve a sub-area plan, and there is a companion item on the agenda tonight, item 7B, which is a planned action ordinance. These two items are separate but are related, and they've been discussed extensively at the last two work study meetings. The first ordinance here, the sub-area plan ordinance, would have the effect of amending the city's comprehensive plan. It would make minor amendments to the development regulations and zoning map, and would pave the way for the planned action ordinance to be adopted separately tonight. It also amends Chapter 2 of our city's comprehensive plan. This has been a 18-month process from selecting the consultant GGLO who prepared the plan for the city and working through sub-consultants, navigating the pandemic and trying to do public outreach with surveys and Zoom meetings and online hearings. And we're getting this done just in time for the closeout of our grant, which has our final invoice to the Department of Commerce has to be submitted by the end of this month. So with that, the recommendation from staff is to approve the ordinance as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this if you still have any that are unanswered.
Questions for Mr. Bond? Councilmember Diener, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance adopting the downtown sub-area plan and the proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan and development regulations as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the downtown sub-area plan. And I guess I usually don't address social media, but there's quite a bit of social media traffic about the fact that this plan demolishes all the homes, historic homes between downtown and the county campus. And I can assure everyone that is absolutely not true. Matter of fact, Council Member Lucarelli made sure that, and so did Council Member Chang, that there wasn't any change to any zoning in the area between the two, the county campus and downtown. So anyway, sometimes if something is said often enough on social media, people start believing it. So I'm just trying to avoid that. So Jay, did you raise your hand?
I did,
No?
Mayor. I just wanted to say that, again, we keep thanking staff for the job that they do. And this is another example of staff doing the hard work that we get to approve. And thank you very much for the work that staff does.
Thank you, Jay. And Councilmember Chang.
Yes, I wanted to thank you, Mayor, for addressing the social media. I had actually heard message directly from two people who wondered if the city were going to buy up all the properties for the county campus. And I was happy to tell them that no, that's not what the designation on the map meant. But I could understand where they would get that impression. And it sounds like that explanation satisfied them because no one has showed up to comment on this issue.
Okay, other comments or questions? We've seen this at a number of council meetings. Councilmember Diener? I saw you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just also wanted to thank staff for what's a pretty intensive planning process, especially when you consider the planned action. These things are pretty heavy lifts, so and even to manage the contracts that go with them takes quite a bit of time and energy and effort. And this was well done, and it marched progressively from A to B. So good job to the city and its staff.
Yes, I think these sub-area plans are so important, and right now I know how busy the planning department is, and for us to complete a sub-area plan for Ruby Creek, to have this one done now and starting the planning process on McCormick Village, it just makes gets everybody comfortable with what it is we're proposing versus just showing up one day. All right, if there aren't any, and as I said earlier, that we've been working on this for most of the year and part of last year, and we've had a number of public meetings, and this was at the work study last week, so this shouldn't be new information to anyone. So with that, you'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance approving the final downtown sub-area plan and proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan and development regulations. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance is approved. The second is a companion to the first action, is the adoption of an ordinance establishing a planned action for the downtown sub-area. And this is also yours, Mr. Bond.
All right, so yeah, as you mentioned, this is a companion item to the sub-area plan. And when we applied for the grant to the Department of Commerce, we promised to do two things. And the grant money that we received was really intended to further provide housing, as there is definitely a housing shortage in our area. And so the planned action piece of this is really aimed at streamlining the permitting process for development that occurs consistent with our sub-area plan. We issued an EIS in April of this year, which was noticed to be a planned action EIS. And when you do a planned action EIS, you are essentially reviewing both the creation of the plan and the development regulations, as well as a predetermined amount of development which would occur under those regulations, which removes a hurdle down the road when somebody actually comes in and applies for development. So this ordinance has the effect of completing SEPA review for a fixed amount of development activity. And the recommended amount of activity is based on the mixed use alternative under the EIS and includes 848,600 square feet of non-residential uses. And of that, 24,000 square feet is reserved for the community event center, and 580,000 square feet is reserved for the Kitsap County Courthouse project, such that those projects won't have to go through SEPA review, provided they fall under the scope of the planned action ordinance. In addition, the planned action ordinance provides for 1,288 units of housing, most of which would be accommodated in mixed-use development downtown, the 640 Bay Street property, and a handful of other areas that were identified in the sub-area plan. Also included under the planned action are the parks projects that were part of the downtown sub-area plan, which included enhancements along the water between the boat launch over to Blackjack Creek and just a little beyond Blackjack Creek. And so if we were to expand Etta Turner Park on the west side of the creek, that would be covered. Also putting in improvements, the plazas that we've talked about on Port Street, on Orchard Street, those are also covered by the proposed planned action. So what happens under the planned action for an applicant is when they come in with a building permit to the city, if they are not exempt from SEPA, if they're subject to SEPA review, they would still complete a checklist like they normally do. And our staff would review that checklist and determine whether the project is covered under the planned action ordinance. If it is, we would issue a notice saying this proposed development is covered by the planned action. We would track it in our spreadsheet and deduct it from the quantities that are authorized in the ordinance. And then there is no further environmental review required for the project. So it removes a step. It saves 2 to 3 months of review time and comments and noticing and other things that have to go on specific to SEPA. That's not to say that if it's in a shoreline, you would still have a shoreline hearing. There's still other public process involved in terms of the building permit application, but it does remove environmental review through SEPA for some projects. So the recommendation tonight is to approve the planned action ordinance as presented, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have those.
Council members, Councilmember Diener,
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance establishing a planned action for the downtown Sudbury plan as presented.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Diener, second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Any questions or comments on this? As we said, it's a companion to the prior item, and we've worked through a lengthy process and public hearings on this. So, all right, no questions. You'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance establishing a planned action EIS for the downtown sub area. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I think the dog was opposed. Right, so the ordinance passes. All right, we are to item C, adoption of an ordinance amending the 2021-2022 biennial budget salary table. Mr. Crocker, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Business item 7C is requesting the City Council adopted the 2021-22 biennial budget and Exhibit A of the biennial budget, which identifies the personnel positions as well as pay ranges. By this ordinance, the City Council would amend its Exhibit A of the 21-22 biennial budget as adopted by ordinance number 03520 and amended by ordinance number 1521. The proposed budget amendment includes Exhibit A, which will create a new human resource specialist position at a 1 FTE. It will reduce 1 FTE for an existing office assistant 2 position. It creates a new assistant planner position, again 1 FTE. It adds 2 FTEs to the public works personnel category, bring it to a total of 12 FTEs, and adds 1 FTE to the existing public works labor position, bringing that category on our table to 2 FTEs. The net impact of these changes is an additional 4 FTEs from the originally approved budget. Staff would recommend adoption of an ordinance amending the Exhibit A of the 21-22 biennial budget.
Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance amending Exhibit A to ordinance number 035-20 as amended by ordinance number 015-21, the 2021-2022 biennial budget for the Port Orchard or City of Port Orchard.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Cacciardi. And I know some of you, this is happening a bit fast. We normally would take this to a work study, but we don't have one next month. Or actually we do, we don't have one in August. But as we brought this to the Finance Committee last week, and let me give you the big picture here. So we've got, we had somebody leave the city, the office assistant position. That was the front counter position. And it gave us an opportunity. So we filled that temporarily with an intern. But that intern is going to be gone in August, and it's going to take us a month or more to hire and onboard a new position. And this person leaving allowed us to step back and evaluate really what are our needs, and our we've been hiring and our turnover. Our HR department is extremely busy. So this person is going to help not only staff the front counter, but also have experience and education in human resources and be able to assist the HR department. The second piece of this is we have an intern that we hired that's working in the planning department. And we talked about this, I think at the retreat, that if activity continued the way that it's been, that we would take that intern and turn it into a city employee. And we're only allowed to employ an intern for a specific period of time before we have to start adding benefits and other things to this employee. That person's time with us is going to come to an end in August, and we don't want to lose this person. So that's why we're bringing this part of this package also. The third piece is we're performing extremely well in revenue, and one of our biggest needs is to just simply provide more service, from pothole repairs to and other things that our public works department can do. And it makes me nervous that to add 3 bodies, but how we've structured this is we've got at least 3 bodies that will retire in the next 3 to 5 years. And we will be able to, so if we have a downstone, Noah and I have talked about, and what we shared with the finance committee, we are going to set aside salary and benefits for these 3 positions for 5 years, because we're sitting on enough cash to be able to do that. In the event that we have an economic downturn, we'll be able to manage these positions out through attrition and be able to, provide. We shouldn't be sitting on this money. We need to deploy this money, and I believe this is a very responsible way to deploy the cash that we're sitting on. So I've got a list of other things that we'll bring forward that are one-time expenditures at the mid-year review, much of which you guys gave us direction at the retreat. So that's kind of the backstory there. And I wish we would have had it at a work study, but we weren't ready last week, and I didn't want to wait another month. So questions of me or of Noah of the thought process here?
Mayor, I would just add to your comments that, as you said, you did bring it to the finance committee. We talked about all these positions, and the finance committee was 100% behind your proposal. So at least 3 of the 7 of us have seen this outside of what you have brought to us through the work study. So granted, it's a little bit out of the norm, but I personally think it's needed, and it's a good way to move forward, both from the re-evaluation of the staffing needs within City Hall, as well as dealing with the future attrition issues that you're going to have.
Thank you, Councilmember Clausen. Councilmember Kuchardi.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we did have a long discussion at Finance Committee, and I am absolutely in support of this. If you look at, the demand for services, from our community, our growing community, it's absolutely the right time to be able to provide that. So from the public works perspective, the changes here, I think, are a fantastic thing for our city. And the other 2 positions, I think, is a great explanation. Those are more of business as usual.
Councilmember Chang.
Yeah, this seems like a really creative solution to juggle around positions. I was curious about a statement that you made where it sounds like the newly created human resource specialist might also be working at the front office as well.
Well, and we don't have the lobby traffic. We have reopened. We've done it quietly ahead of the governor's reopening plan. I mean, we've got sneeze guards and everything in place and markers on the floor to separate people by 6 feet. But we don't have the same level of lobby traffic. We've been helping people for a year and a half on the telephone, on the, through our website. That doesn't work for everybody. And that was played into part of the logic to reopen sooner than the governor's date. Somebody still needs to sit at the front counter and answer the question for the person that walks in the door that can't seem to read the signs that say the police department's downstairs and the finance department's or the court's upstairs. It's a daily occurrence. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, but you got to have a body there. Somebody's still got to answer the telephone, or that you don't get a health a birth certificate at City Hall, you go over to the health department. So there's an element of that still happens at the front counter. In the perfect world, I'd have a clerical person up there, and I'd have a completely separate HR specialist, but it's the benefit cost. That's a third of this. And, you know, this HR specialist is going to cost a bit more, but it's not going to cost what the benefits would of a fifth employee here. So I think long-term, as we continue to grow, we've added 8 positions. That's 10% to our workforce this year with these positions. HR our workforce is our city's growing, our workforce is growing. In the future, these are going to be separate positions, but today, this is the most efficient way to manage what's kind of 2 jobs. So hopefully that was a satisfactory explanation. It wasn't yes and no. I'm sorry. Other questions or comments? All right, with that, you'll be voting on adopting an ordinance to amend the 2021-2022 biennial budget salary table. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The ordinance passes. I thank you for your continued faith and trust in me that we're managing these issues as responsibly and efficiently as possible. I greatly appreciate your support. So we'll go item D now. Adoption of an ordinance authorizing positions of human resource specialist and assistant planner. Debbie Lund, this is yours.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. I feel like the Mayor just pretty much covered this item. This is your night for companion items. This goes hand in hand with your last item related to the budget. The City Council needs to approve general qualifications and duties for new positions, and that is the item before you, the general qualifications and duties for both the Human Resources Specialist and the Assistant Planner. Once you have had an opportunity to do that, the Mayor will then work with staff to finalize the job description. So staff is recommending approval of the attached summary of the positions as part of the attached ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Kuchardi.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the creation of the positions of Human Resources Specialist and Assistant Planner and authorizing the mayor to develop job descriptions consistent with the attached general qualifications and duties set out in the ordinance.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Kuchardi and a second by Councilmember Clausen. Questions or comments? Because Councilmember Rosapepe, go ahead.
I just backing up to the previous item and this item, I would like to thank the Finance Committee for their due diligence to ensure that we have the funds to move forward on these positions. So thank you to my fellow council members.
Other comments or questions? All right, you'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance authorizing positions of Human Resource Specialist and Assistant Planner. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance has passed. We are to item E now, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Hugh G. Goldsmith and Associates, Inc. for the preparation of a legal description and sketch for use in a water main easement at McCormick Village Park. Mr. Dorsey, this is yours.
Thank you, Honor Council members. The city desires to utilize the services of a professional surveyor to prepare a legal description and sketch for an easement covering the operation, repair, and maintenance of the water main located within the McCormick Village Park. Accordingly, on May 26, 2021, the city's Public Works Department utilized the current MRSC professional services consultant roster to establish a list of qualified consulting firms for the preparation of the legal description and sketch for the main category, land surveying and mapping. After staff reviewed, scored, and ranked the statement of qualifications of the 3 selected firms, City's Public Works Department determined that Hugh G. Goldsmith and Associates Incorporated was the highest ranking firm on June 4th, 2021. And upon completion of the bidder's checklist, an acceptable scope and budget was provided in the amount of $3,500. Staff recommends adoption of resolution 041-21, thereby approving contract number C 065-21 with Hugh G. Goldsmith and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $3,500 for the preparation of the City of Bremerton water main easement at McCormick Village Park.
Councilmember Lucarelli.
I move to adopt resolution number 041-21, thereby approving contract number C065-21 with Hugh G. Goldsmith and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $3,500 for the preparation of the legal description and survey for water main easement at McCormick Village Park.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lucarelli, a second by Councilmember Diener. Questions of Mr. Dorsey on this matter?
No.
Pretty straightforward. Councilmember Clausen.
Mayor, I just have a comment. It seems like we need to revisit our policies. If you're being required to bring a $3,500 expenditure to us for approval, it seems a bit low to bring it to the council now. I do recognize that it may result in an amendment to the budget, so I can appreciate why it's here, I guess, but I think that's something that we should be taking a look at for the future.
Well, I think Noah can add that to his very short list of things he's working on. He doesn't have much going on in the finance department.
Well, I think it's something that we could at least address at the finance committee and talk about some different parameters wrapped around this.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can add it to a future finance committee meeting, give us some parameters, and then have staff go to work on really what that amending our I guess is purchasing and procurement policies. But yes, it is before you because it's not in the budget.
I kind of assumed that, but still, it's $3,500.
All right, appreciate that. So we'll be you'll be voting, not me, on adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Hugh G. Goldsmith Associates, Inc. for the preparation of a legal description and sketch for use in a water main easement at McCormick Village Park. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The resolution is passed. We are to item F, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Westmark Construction, Inc. for the library exterior and interior wall repair project. Mr. Dorsey?
Thank you, Your Honor, council members. On April 13th, 2021, the Kitsap Regional Library, located at 87 Sydney Avenue, was damaged by a vehicle accident on the westward facing exterior and interior wall, resulting in needed repairs. On April 27th, 2021, the city established a list of qualified contractors from the 2021 MRSC Small Works roster for main category, concrete and masonry, facility construction, repair, and maintenance. And the subcategory was maintenance, construction, carpentry, interior carpentry, rough maintenance and repair, to perform the library exterior interior wall repair project. On April 27, 2021, and pursuant to resolution 019-17, the city's Public Works Department emailed an invitation to bid for the library exterior interior wall repair project to all the qualified contractors on the selected roster and posted to the city's website. 2 bids were received by the May 12, 2021 deadline, at which Westmark Construction, Inc. was deemed the presumed responsive and qualified low bidder, with the final bid amounts with Westmark at $22,177,005. Summit Sealants and Restoration Services was at $28,990.73. On May 12th, City's Public Works Department staff did complete the MRSC mandatory bidder responsibility checklist and determined that the Westmark construction bid of $22,177.05 with applicable tax included was the lowest responsive and qualified bid. The Public Works Department has confirmed that the bidding procedures for Public Works have been followed. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt resolution number 039-21, authorizing the mayor to execute contract number C061-21 with Westmark Construction, Inc. for the library exterior interior wall repair project contract in the amount of $22,177.05 with applicable tax included.
Councilmember Chang,
I move to adopt resolution number 039-21, authorizing the mayor to execute contract number C061-21 with Westmark Construction, Inc. for the library exterior interior wall repair project in the amount of $22,177.05, applicable tax included.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Chang and a second by Councilmember Lucarelli. I still scratch my head on this one, how somebody could thread the needle between those two lit bollards that are barely big enough to get a car through at a speed sufficient to penetrate a cinder block wall. But they did it. So we're only repairing the wall and not the bollards. Councilmember Chang?
Do we have pictures of the damage?
We
And
do.
is the insurance the driver's insurance that will be paying for this, or the city's insurance?
We file a claim with our insurance and our insurance goes after their insurance if they have it. Councilmember Kuchardi?
I was just going to make that point for kind of the video record that there is insurance involved with this in case someone's not reading our full packet.
Yeah. Councilmember Diener, did you have a question?
No, not anymore.
Okay. Yes, there is insurance, but it's ours, and then we go after the driver and their insurance. Right, you'd be voting on the approval of a resolution, adoption of a resolution, approving a contract with Westmark Construction, Inc. for the library exterior interior wall repair. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is approved, or the contract is approved. We are going to jump to item H, which is the approval of a road closure for a special event. Clerk Reinerson?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm going to shift my computer just a little bit so that way the sunshine is not blinding your eyes. How's that?
Not much better, but we'll deal with it.
Okay.
There you go. Now, oh, too far.
Too far.
There you go.
All right, I'll try and hold my head still. Hold on, let me get my staff report up here. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So staff received a special event application from Run Amok Racing, Inc. on May 27, 2021. The application stated that the event is for UConduit Marathon, or excuse me, the UConduit Summer Edition. It's a run walk. It's a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon taking place on Sunday, July 11th, 2021. Setup time will start at 4 a.m. and open to the public at 5 a.m. until 3 p.m. The location is downtown Port Orchard, which is the waterfront and gazebo parking lot behind Peninsula Feed, along the pedestrian pathway on Bay Street, as well as the Bay Street / Beach Drive between the 1600 block and the 1100 block of Beach Drive. There are some partial closures of the parking lot and one lane closure on Bay Street and Beach Drive, again, between the 1600 block of Bay Street and the 1100 block of Beach Drive. Pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 5.94.050, subsection 4, staff shall bring forward the special event application to the City Council for approval when the event requires a street closure or a highway closure. City staff has received and reviewed the application. Staff has determined that based on the nature and the size of this event, it will cause significant impact to traffic flow, require additional planning, and require significant staffing from the police department. However, the applicant has agreed that should the council move forward with the street closure, they will be providing private contractors to manage and control the traffic to the satisfaction of the police chief. For that reason, staff recommends the council authorize the road closure as presented.
Councilmember Diener?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the road closure for the UConduit Summer Edition taking place on July 11th, 2021, conditioned upon the applicant satisfying all the police chief's safety concerns.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Diener, a second by Councilmember Clausen. Councilmember Diener, go ahead.
So I noticed, by the way, I wanted to compliment the applicant if they're listening on an application well done. I noticed that the applicant has said they will provide private contractors to manage and control traffic, but later on in the application, it mentions that they might be using some of the police staffing. So I was just curious about that discrepancy.
So when they,
Go ahead.
when they submitted the application, that was the original plan, but because of the staffing and safety concerns, the chief recommended that they really hire somebody that's, you know, experienced and that's their specialty to conduct that road closure. And then they went and did that and submitted the plan, and that's why it's before you tonight.
Okay.
Chief, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's absolutely what happened. We really appreciate the event organizers reaching out and getting that done so that they can work towards having an event.
Thank you. That's kind of what I suspected may have happened, but I appreciate the clarification.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this was a less expensive alternative for them too, because off-duty police officers at overtime versus this contractor was likely a less expensive alternative for them also.
I believe so. I mean, if we were to do the same as the plan that they presented, it would probably be more expensive, but I have not seen the valuation of what their contractor had put up.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember Cacciardi and then Councilmember Rosepepe.
My question was answered with the last commentation. Thank you.
Councilmember Rosepepe.
Chief, so do we have any additional resources that we're putting out there that day?
We're waiting some final conversations with the event organizers, but I do not believe that this is a size of an event that will necessitate a police response.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Councilmember Chang.
I was just looking at the map on page 275, and it's an impressive route. It looks like possibly the most dangerous portion is still within the city limits along the Mosquito Fleet Trail. But is it a full marathon, or it looks like it is almost to southward?
Yes, so I actually did this. I would say that the most dangerous portion is actually out in the county. And it is a long way for somebody who has run that before, but I would say out in the county past, almost out to Waterman.
Thank you for your question. Other questions? All right, hearing none, you'll be voting on approval of a road closure for a special event. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the event application has been approved. We're to item I now, approval of the June 8th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, so sorry. Okay. I've got it jammed up here. Then go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay,
My
I move
computer
to
just-
approve the council meeting minutes from our work study session, or I'm sorry, from the regular meeting on June 8th, 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the June 8th council meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion carries. There are no abstentions. All right, we're going to go into, I'm going to say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, Charlie? What do you think? 20 minutes?
20 is reasonable.
20 is reasonable? Okay, we're going to go into executive session for 20 minutes, and I'll let you cite the statute, and then council members, you have a separate Zoom link, so you'll leave this meeting and go enter the executive session.
Thank you. So we'll be entering executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110, subpart 1, subpart I, to discuss legal risks of a proposed action with legal counsel for approximately 20 minutes with action to follow.
Okay.